Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our presentation of our re-entry plan. Thank you for joining us this evening for this informational talk on how East Providence is going to proceed with their re-entry plan. I just want to clarify some issues before we begin to discuss our plan. If Rhode Island schools are to close, it would be the governor who makes that decision based on scientific data. And I believe she put that up on her press conference. It's in the paper, and I'm sure it's online today. The decision she made to keep us in phase 3 were based on these criteria. These criteria will be used to decide if schools were to go to total distance learning. On the 17th, the governor is not going to have a plan. Our plans were required by the Rhode Island Department of Health, the Rhode Island Department of Education. Our plans have gone through a vetting process, and our plans have been approved and will be posted on our website, and the Rhode Island Department of Ed will post on their website. You will notice that all the plans have several options. We had decided before we began this process that we were going to offer distance learning for parents that did not want to send their children to school for various reasons. Plus, we were going to have a full in-person for our elementary schools for parents who wanted their children to return to school. And that's the plan that we have set forward this evening. We have asked you to let us know if your child or you are interested in distance learning, because we have to pair you up with teachers who also have similar issues and may not be coming back to a face-to-face model in the classroom. And in order to start on time on August 31st, we need to put this plan in place. Now, having said that, on the 17th, we may see, because things are changing daily, sometimes hourly, we may see the governor postpone the opening of school, as Massachusetts has done. I don't know that. That would be one of the options, but only the governor can decide whether school opens, whether we delay it, or whether we start on the 31st. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Sandra Ferran, who will take you through our plan. Dr. Ferran?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, I'd like to start by talking about the district priorities as we work to create this plan. First and foremost, health and safety was what guided all of our decisions. Every decision that was made for the health and safety of our students and staff. We looked at equity, making sure all students got what they needed to be successful, collaboration, innovation, resilience, and flexibility. Many of you received the letter from the superintendent explaining the district planning process. So I'd like to just go over that briefly. The district has a reentry task force. There are 21 members from a variety of stakeholder groups, and they are overseeing the entire process. From that task force, we created 4 subcommittees: teaching and learning, chaired by principals Anne Marie Scott and Bill Black; operations and business services, chaired by Director of Operations Diana Clarkin; physical environment and safety, chaired by Principal Lori Marchand; and social emotional learning, chaired by Principal Rob Perry and Director of Pupil Personnel Leslie Anderson. Each of those committees consisted of approximately 15 members, including parents, teachers from all levels, administrators, community members, and all had input into all of the decisions that were made for this plan. They explored a variety of options, they researched, and they spent really hundreds of hours putting this plan together in a time of about 2.5 weeks. The plan was created based on the Rhode Island Department of Education and the Rhode Island Department of Health guidance. You can find that guidance on the Rhode Island Department of Ed website, and it spells out what the district is required to do and the guidelines they are required to follow in creating this plan. Did it on July 17th, and we were waiting for final approval, which should be granted by July 31st. So yesterday we received, late yesterday afternoon, we received some revisions, and I'll speak about those later. We made those revisions and we submitted early this morning. So we are waiting to hear back. Again, as the superintendent said, the decision for re-entry will be made by state officials on August 17th. It is not the district's decision on how we come back or if we come back. That will be made at the state level. So I'd like to begin by talking about the possible scenarios for return for elementary. So we were asked to create 3 possible scenarios. Our first one was a full in-person return, and in that full in-person return, it will be all students in pre-K through 5 will be in school in secure groups of 30, or stable pods, you may hear them called. That 30 will include all adults that enter that classroom. I had a lot of questions come in about class size. So that does not mean that there will be 30. That is the maximum size of anyone that goes into that pod. So it cannot exceed 30. In a partial return, so our original plan was grades K to 2 in school and special populations, and grades 3 to 5 in distance learning. We were told that we need to reduce the population in school by 50%. Our feedback that we were given said that for elementary, we're not going to reduce the population. And so our new proposal was all students in pre-K through 5 will be in school. It is the same as our full in-person. So if we were to come back full in-person or partial return, they would look the same. And that was with feedback from the Rhode Island Department of Ed, and that came in yesterday afternoon. So we just changed it for last night's presentation. So you may hear something different if someone attended the first 2 presentations, but that has changed just this week, just yesterday. In a limited return, we would be grades pre-K and K in school and special populations, and grades 1 through 5 in distance learning. The guidance we received is that the Department of Ed wanted us to focus on transition grades, and that's why the decision to bring kindergarten in was made, and because that's the most difficult grade to do distance learning with also. The school hours for elementary would be 9:15 to 3. We are coming into the building later because we need additional time between bus runs to sanitize the buses. So school would start at 9:15 for elementary. The elementary day, students will remain in the classroom all day and their special subjects would push in. So those teachers would be part of that stable group of 30. So the first quarter, let's say first grade might have art, and they would have that art class every day. The second quarter, they may have music. Third quarter, they may have PE. So that schedule is being created by building principals, and they would push into the classroom. So all elementary students would remain in the classroom. There was a question about departmentalization. Students would stay in their class and teachers would move into them in grades 3 to 5 so that they stay in the same room with the same group of students. We are strongly encouraging outside activities, including class time. And any day that students are not in school, which basically would only be in the limited return, there will be distance learning for those days. And we'll talk more about what distance learning will look like for the fall. So I'd briefly like to go over the middle school and high school in case we have parents that have multiple children at multiple grade levels. So for middle school, we have all 6th grade coming in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday with special populations. On Monday and Tuesday, we are bringing all grade 7 in. And on Thursday, Friday, we are bringing all grade 8 in. Wednesday will be a distance learning day in order to sanitize the building fully between different pods of students. If we go to a partial return, it would be grade 6 and one 7th grade team in special populations on Monday. Tuesday would be grade 6 and the other 7th grade team. Wednesday, again, would be a distance learning day. Thursday would be grade 6 and grade 8 team 1. And Friday would be grade 6 and grade 8 team 2. And special populations would come in all days except for the Wednesday again, which would be distance learning. On a limited return at the middle school, we would have all grade 6 and special populations, and grades 7 and 8 would be doing distance learning. Wednesday will remain a distance learning day for 6th grade. School hours at the middle school would be 7:45 to 1:30. The middle school will look the same as elementary school, with students remaining in the classroom with itinerants pushing in. So their special subject teachers will push into the classroom, and they'll be by quarter. And once again, we're strongly encouraging outside class and outside activities. And anytime when students are not in school, they would be distance learning. At the high school, full in person would be Monday, Tuesday, all grade 9 and 11 with our special populations. Wednesday, all students distance learning. Thursday and Friday, all grade 10 and 12 special populations. Monday and Tuesday, all grade 9 and 11 in a partial return. Wednesday, all grades distance learning. Thursday, all grades 10 and 12 in special populations. So you'll see that at the high school level, the full return and the partial return look the same because we did originally reduce the population by 50%. So we met the partial criteria for high school in the full return. In limited return, it would be Monday grade 9 in special populations, Tuesday grade 11 in special populations, Wednesday would be a distance learning again, Thursday would be grade 10 in special populations, and Friday will be grade 12 in special populations. Once again, we've reduced the school day from 7:25 to 12:30 in order to have time in the afternoon to clean the bus between the runs. I neglected to mention, I believe at the middle school, the day would be 7:45 to 1:30. The afternoon would be shortened again to clean the buses before elementary students got on the bus. And distance learning will take place on days when students are not in school. So to define special populations, that would be our self-contained students, our therapeutic students, and our highly specialized classes. So I'd like to move into health and safety. So face coverings. So this is one area where if you have read the district plan, this has changed. So staff and students are required to wear face coverings. It was highly recommended for students. The governor did come out yesterday and say that masks would be required for students. So staff and students are required to wear face coverings. That was not in our original guidance from the Department of Ed. So we have made that switch from our plan. There will be intentional mask breaks built into the day, and families may contact their principal to discuss medical exemptions for masks. That would be a conversation to have with the principal and the school nurse if your child could not wear a mask during the day because of medical reasons. So health and safety, hallways, all of our hallways will be one way whenever possible with visuals posted on floors and walls throughout the building. We have ordered signs that will be posted in all of the schools. There are some of our schools where you cannot do a one-way because the corridors don't lead anywhere. They're dead-end corridors. So each principal is working on a plan currently for their traffic flow. Students will not pass each other in the hallways. All students that are out in the hallway, if they're moving from one area to the next, would go in the same direction. Arrival and dismissal at schools. Students will enter the building one way through multiple doors with directions clearly and visually marked on floors and walls. So we are attempting to spread all students out into different doors wherever possible. And if students have doors that lead right into the classroom, we'll be using those doors for students to enter and for student dismissal. So all of those plans are being created at the building level, and principals will be submitting them and reviewing them with us as we move along. And then those will be made public to families and communicated by the principal. Individual school plans, again, are going to vary based on the building structure, and they will be communicated to you. There is a no visitor policy to start the year in all of our buildings. So we will not be allowing people into the building. In most of the schools, you would buzz. Someone may come out if you're dropping something off, or if you're picking up a child for an appointment, we'll bring your child out to you, but we will not be allowing people into the building other than staff and students. Classroom layouts. So classrooms will be assigned in ways that minimize distance and traffic. So the way we enter a classroom, the way we enter a classroom, the way we move, the flow of the classroom will all be outlined in order to avoid students going face-to-face interactions. We are maintaining 6 feet of distance whenever possible. Desks and tables will be set up to allow for that distance between students whenever possible. We have walked every building. We are walking through. The superintendent, the director of facilities, myself, principals have walked through. We have already started setting up classrooms in buildings, and I'll show you what an example of that looks like as we move forward. And again, students will all face the same direction in the classroom. All non-essential furniture has been removed from the classroom in order to maximize social distancing. Seating will be assigned in each classroom. And then all porous materials have also been removed from the classroom. So beanbag chairs, things like stools have all been removed. As far as dining goes, so at the high school, we'll be doing grab and go breakfast. There'll be kiosks set up throughout the school, and students will be able to pick up breakfast and bring it into their classrooms. And we will be doing a grab and go lunch in the same manner as students leave for the day. At the middle school, there'll be grab and go breakfast, and they'll take them to the classroom, and lunch will be delivered to classrooms. So we will begin the year with bagged lunches. We hope to add a hot lunch during the week as we move later into the school year once we get our procedures down. And so students would be required to order lunch ahead of time. Students can bring their lunches to school. That question came up frequently. They can still bring their lunches if they typically bring their own lunch from home. And we will be encouraging outdoor dining whenever possible. Same for elementary. So elementary will have all breakfast in the classroom. It'll be delivered to classrooms in the morning. And we will also have all lunches delivered to the classroom. And again, students are able to bring their own lunch if they don't typically get hot school lunch. So we're asking students to bring water from home, as we will be shutting off all the water fountains in school. So school events. So as many of you know, the governor reduced the size of groups yesterday back down to 15. So all of our events at this point will be held virtually. So open house, back to school events right now will be held virtually. We are not allowed to exceed the state maximum group size. Student and parent orientation will be held virtually. So any of the transition grades, typically like K, 6th grade, those orientations will be held virtually. Kindergarten screenings will be performed individually in either a common room or outdoors. We'll be making appointments with all kindergarten parents to bring their child in for the screening, and then a cleaning protocol will be followed after each screening is done. At this time, there will be no after-school activities. We are still working with our community partners, the Boys and Girls Club right at school and the YMCA to try and come up with a plan for before and after school care. There are a lot of complications with that right now, including stable pods and cleaning between groups. So we are currently working through that guidance and working with those partners, and we will have that answer for you at a later date. As far as Rhode Island Interscholastic League sports, they are still to be determined. So again, the Rhode Island Interscholastic League is working with the Department of Health and the Department of Ed to determine what, if any, sports will be held in the fall. So screenings. So we're asking parents to complete a daily symptom check and to submit a Google form or a paper copy if needed. Parents will be called if the form is not submitted. Staff will complete a health screening, which will be a Google form before entering the building. There is an ill student and staff policy. and we have isolation rooms set up in every school. The full document, our plan, which is over 100 pages with links, is on the district website, as well as an abbreviated plan that we sent out to parents that condensed the information and identified many of the areas that parents were asking about. But you can find both of those plans on the district website. We've had many questions about a quarantine policy. So if a student was exposed or a staff member was exposed, who would be quarantined, when you would find out. So that will be provided to us by the Rhode Island Department of Health. We are still waiting for that. There is what they're calling a playbook that will be coming out. So as soon as we have that quarantine policy, we will make sure that we release it to parents. It is not something that we will be creating. It is something that will be given to us. Hygiene, so hand washing opportunities will be provided for students at regular intervals. Many of our classrooms at the elementary level have sinks in the classroom, so we will be utilizing those as well as the restrooms. Hand sanitizer will be available in all classrooms and the hallways. Desks will be wiped down if the group of students in a classroom changes. A regular cleaning schedule will be implemented and monitored in each building, and that will be posted to the website. Signs regarding health and safety will be posted throughout the building, and we have all of those signs, about wearing masks, COVID symptoms, social distancing. Those are all ready to be posted in the buildings. We will have training on health and safety provided to all staff. That will also be given to us by the Department of Health, and we are just waiting for that at this point. And we will work with students to make sure that they understand all of the safety issues and hand washing and sanitizing. So we will be working with staff and students on training. So the district has secured plenty of supplies, including sanitizing material, cleaning supplies, and the necessary PPE. We will continue to purchase supplies, but we do feel like we are in good shape for at least the first semester of school, and we continue to purchase the material necessary. So what will classrooms look like? So there will be spacing, 6 feet of spacing as much as possible. There will be no sharing of student materials, so students will have their own materials. Students will be in rows facing the same direction. Teachers will maintain 6 feet of distance whenever possible. There will be no close group work. And again, principals are currently working on plans for their schools that include traffic flow, entrance, exit, hallways, schedules, for both classes, breaks. That will all be built into plans that principals will share with parents. So we wanted to give you a visual of what classes will look like. So this is right now what an elementary classroom looks like that is already set up. So the desks are spaced 6 feet apart. This is what our middle school classroom looks like right now. And this is what a high school classroom looks like right now. So there was some confusion on this section, and I want to make sure this is really clear that families have a choice. So right now, families have 2 options. Families can choose an in-person education. So students, you can decide if you want your student to come back into the school and have in-person instruction. Whether it's full, partial, or limited will not be decided until August 17th, depending on what the situation is. So, some parents thought they could choose between the 3, but you are choosing between in-person education or the district has committed to a full distance learning option. So if you are not ready to send your child back to school, you have this full distance learning option. And I'm going to speak about what that would look like, as well as the in-person education in the next couple of slides. For the full distance learning option, we are asking you to commit to a full semester, which is August 31st to January 25th. We are basically planning 2 full different educational scenarios here. We are planning a distance learning, almost academy, and we are planning in-person education at the same time. So we are trying to align staff for both in-person and for full distance learning. So that's why we're asking for your commitment by August 7th, and we're also asking that you stay with it until the 25th, if that's what you choose, because of how we're going to have to split our staff to address those different needs. With the full distance learning option, there'll be live lessons, so there will be a schedule. It will look different than the spring. So we have taken parent surveys, we have taken surveys from teachers, and we know that, that parents requested more of a schedule and live lessons. So we will be working with teachers to implement those things. There will also be some recorded lessons and definitely assignments that would be pushed out. Distance learning will be evaluated at the semester mark or before, as we see what the current situation is in Rhode Island, and parents would have the opportunity to send children back to school for that January, starting at the end of January, or to commit for a second semester of distance learning, depending on what the situation is in the state. So again, there's two options for families right now. So I want to speak about if a parent chooses the full distance learning option. Again, I just gave you a little bit of information, but again, the distance learning option is for families that do not want their students to come back into the school building right now. We sent out a survey to families on July 27th regarding distance learning, and requests would be due back to us by August 7th so we can start matching students and teachers. There is access to that survey on the district website if you didn't get it. We sent emails to over 6,000 people. So if you didn't get the email, please make sure that you have an up-to-date email address. You can send that to your building principal or secretary. The district's main form of communication will be email. So you may see things on social media from your school, but all communication from the district will be by email. So again, we can't stress enough, please make sure that you have an active email in Skyward so that we can contact you and that you are getting all the latest information. Again, distance learning would be by semester, and students on distance learning would have a set schedule, live classes, and it would match the expectation as what an in-person classroom would look like. So if you choose in-person instruction, at any time, we may have to switch to distance learning. So if there was an uptick in cases in the state, or if there was an exposure, we may have to switch from one day to the next to distance learning. So again, instruction would look the same. It would be both live and recorded instruction. There would be live lessons recorded as needed so that if a student couldn't make a scheduled class, they would have the opportunity to look back on that class. But the expectation would be that they would attend the class at the scheduled time. A set schedule will be created and sent home so that you know what that is ahead of time. And then expectations for distance learning will be communicated to parents by their school principal. And then we had a lot of requests for workshops or videos for parents to help out with Google Classroom and the different tech tools that we use in the district. So we'll be putting that together to assist parents. So teaching and learning instruction, this covers both full distance learning and in-person learning. So there will be regular assessments built into instruction, including both formative and summative, in order to continue to monitor student progress and make academic decisions. So we've received a lot of questions about special education, support services, 504s, multilingual language learners. So in speech, OT, PT, so those will look different in each setting, but they will take place. So some may be in the classroom, in a push-in model if that support personnel or special education teacher is part of that stable pod. And then some of those services would be offered virtually. But if your child receives any of those services, we would still be delivering those services. Reteaching based on the previous year's assessment, as well as the results of the beginning of the year diagnostic testing, will take place. So we will be, we use iReady as a diagnostic in grades K through 8 right now. So we will be pushing out that assessment for students, whether they're on full distance learning or whether they're in the classroom, so that we can see where students are currently academically and in just instruction based on that. Again, I mentioned this, students will take special subjects by quarter, and that is both elementary and middle level. So people asked if students would get these different classes, and they will get them. Rigor and a balanced workload were both things that came up repeatedly in our survey of families. So we are examining that and working to provide guidance with teachers on those issues. And then I just wanted to note that band and chorus, the guidance for band and chorus require 14 feet of space between students. So that is a challenge for us right now, and we are working with our music department to find out the best way to implement those classes. So we know this has been a difficult time for families, students, staff, and we have a district team that has developed a social emotional plan for both students and staff. And you can find that on the full district plan on our website. We've hired a social emotional learning coordinator who will be doing professional development for staff and assisting in the staff working with students. We have social workers at all of our schools, and we also have part-time psychologists. I want to note too that no staff that's currently shared between buildings will be going from building to building. So we will be assigning staff that have multiple buildings to a single building so that we do not have anyone moving in between schools. So we really want to place an emphasis on relationship building in all our classrooms, whether distance or in person. We know at any point, like if we're in person, that we may have to go out. So we know it's essential to really try to establish these relationships with students right from the beginning. So there'll be a lot of relationship building activities built into the first couple of weeks. If you have concerns, we ask that you reach out to your school administration. So if your child had a difficult time in the spring, is having a difficult time during the summer, we are here to work with you and to provide support. So we ask that you really be proactive and you reach out to school staff so that we can be partners and work together to make sure that students have the support that they need. So as far as district technology, so the district will issue Chromebooks to all students in grades K to 12. We do install GoGuardian software on all technology, so teachers can see what students are working on and they can work with them through the software. And again, we'll have workshops and recording for parents on Google Classroom and how to use that effectively. We will be putting together a plan and communicating that. So if you were to choose distance learning, we will be putting together a plan similar to the one in the spring in order for parents and families to come and pick up Chromebooks that they would be using. So students that are in-person learning would take their Chromebooks home every night. We would ask that you charge them so that they're ready for the next day. So busing, as I'm sure many people heard, this is a big obstacle throughout the state. Our bus size has been reduced to almost, or our bus capacity has been reduced to almost a third. They are only allowed to use, they are only allowed to place one student per seat unless they're siblings, then siblings may sit together. What we're asking parents is if you have other means of transportation, we ask that you please use that first, so that students that's only form of transportation is the bus are able to take the bus to school. Right now, we are exploring possibly pushing out the mileage. We are waiting right now to see how many families choose distance learning, and then we will be communicating with families that have chosen in-person instruction that typically take the bus to try and work out a plan with those families. So again, right now, that's a work in progress as we collect the distance learning responses. We do feel like we may be in a better situation at the high school and the middle school because they are using a hybrid model. So we feel as if, because we've cut down on the numbers of students attending each day, that we may be not have to push out the mileage, or we may be able to get most of our students to be able to utilize busing. So we can't stress enough that this plan continues to evolve daily based on new guidance that comes out. We believe that the changes that we made to our plan and submitted will be approved, and then the overall plan will be approved. But we do continue to see changes, and we do continue to make changes in the plan. So we are watching what's happening all around the country as schools reopen and all around the world, and making decisions based on what we're seeing and the research that's in front of us. So it is a very fluid document. And so something you see today in the document may change tomorrow, just like the scenario for partial reopening. So again, everything in this plan is subject to change right now. I mentioned this earlier, but the Return to Learn document is the abbreviated version of the full document. It's much more user-friendly, but you also have access to the full reentry plan on the district website, and we will be continuing to add policies and procedures to that plan as we are creating them or as we are receiving them from the Department of Health and the Department of Ed. So I wanted to address some of the parent questions that came up that were outside of what came up in the overall presentation. So again, I did mention earlier, but I wanted to stress, I know parents are asking and staff are asking about the quarantine plan and what would happen. As soon as we receive that from RIDE and the Rhode Island Department of Health, we will make sure that we release that to you. We have been asked multiple times about staff being tested regularly for COVID. As of right now, that is not in the plan. Testing time right now, the turnaround is a week or so. The governor did address it yesterday, I believe, in her press conference that she would look into that. So we'll wait further guidance from the Department of Health on that. I did mention after-school programs during the presentation. We are working hard to put those programs in place, but there are barriers right now that need to be addressed in order to make sure that students are safe in those programs and that we keep our stable groups together. So we will continue to update you as we work through those. We've been asked about masks at recess. So if students can keep a distance of 6 feet, then masks would not be required. But if students are playing outside and they're closer than 6 feet, they would need to continue to wear those masks. And that policy is something that we continue to look at, and we continue to look for guidance from the Department of Health. Recess and playground equipment. So right now, the school playground equipment would not be used because between every stable group, all of that equipment would have to be sanitized. As we start to move further into the school year, we will look at maybe some kind of rotation if we can make sure that it can be properly cleaned between the next group. All students will have recess during the day, and we will be building in mass breaks in addition to that recess. Station rotation, that came up also. It will not look the same because there will be no sharing of material. Again, we're still working through what that would look like. The Boston program teaches a meeting and they're having those discussions. So class sizes. So we've been asked about class sizes. So that's right now difficult to give a solid answer to. We have 17 of each grade level at elementary, and those class sizes are varying right now based on students that have and families that have chosen distance learning. So I can give you a range right now of probably 18 to maybe 21 in most of our classes. Some are less, a couple maybe a little bit higher, but those numbers continue to change daily as more families select distance learning. So we're asking you not to hold us to that, but that is the range that we're looking at right now. And again, we got several questions about why 30. That is the guidance from the Department of Ed and the Department of Health that the stable pod can be no more than 30. So right now our stable pods are not that high. And again, they continue to decrease, but that is the maximum context that would be in that stable pod. So again, I ask for parents to make sure that we have an up-to-date email. If you have not been receiving the district emails, because we have been communicating all of our plans and sending out the surveys through email, please reach out to your school principal and send them your email address so we can get that entered into Skyward. So we've also been asked frequently about distance learning teachers. So are we outsourcing this to other companies? So distance learning teachers will be East Providence district teachers. They may not be teachers from your student's school. So your students that are in distance learning may be mixed in those classes with other students at that grade level from other schools, and it might be a teacher that would have been assigned to a different school. We are still working through those distance learning plan, and we are still getting responses until next week. So again, that is a work in progress. As you can see, there are a lot of moving pieces that we're trying to fit together as things keep changing along the way and guidance is being revised. So we were also asked about bathroom schedules. So right now, principals are working on schedules to keep stable pods going to the bathroom at the same time. So between every stable pod, we are able to thoroughly clean those restrooms before the next stable pod comes in. So we are adjusting the personnel in the buildings to make sure that we have the staff to make sure that any high touch surfaces in the school are consistently wiped down, that bathrooms are cleaned, that lunches, breakfast and lunch, it's cleaned up after those occurrences. So, we are working very hard on those schedules and making sure that things are cleaned. So please also understand that schools will be cleaned every day. A deep cleaning will take place on Wednesdays at middle and high. So that would be sanitizing the entire building. And we would look to do that on weekends for elementary schools because the stable pods in the classroom are staying the same. So the classrooms will be cleaned, surfaces will be wiped down, but what we're calling a deep cleaning where everything in the entire building is sprayed down will occur on either between stable pods, the change of stable pods, or on the weekends, or in some cases both. So we ask that if you have questions that are specific to your school, that you reach out to your principal with those questions. We also have an email set up. It is 20-21 reopening at epschoolsri.com. So if you have questions about the district plan, you can reach out to us on that email. We ask you to at least be patient and give us a little bit of time to return emails. The people that are working on the plans are the people that are answering the emails also. So, we are trying to get back to you in a timely manner, but we ask that you just please be patient if you do use the 2021 email address. And also if you reach out to principals, they're working really hard on their school plans. They're spending, hours on end trying to get back to you as soon as possible. So we just ask for your patience and understanding at this time. So that concludes our presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And again, you can reach out with any questions that you have, and we will continue to update you as new procedures and policies become available and as our plans continue to evolve.
Thank you, Dr. Ferran. So we just remind you that this plan is evolving. It's fluid. It will change between now and the time we open school. And that is a result of data that will be coming in from the state on a regular basis. The governor right now is having a press conferences on Wednesday, and she is reporting all that information. And so you should stay tuned for that, but we will also update you with any changes in our plan as those changes come in. So again, we remind you, please be flexible with this. It is fluid and it will change. Also keep in mind, the superintendent cannot cancel school in any district. It is up to the governor to cancel school or to state how school is going to open in August or September. So thank you very much. Please use our email address if there are any further questions that anyone has, and we will try to get back to you as quickly as possible.